These are 3 stories from Yellowstone's Forbidden Zones. In each case, a ranger encounters something that made them question whether certain places should ever be accessible, or whether dangers are too unpredictable, too lethal to ever be made safe. This is our first story. I've been a backcountry ranger at Yellowstone for 12 years. I've seen grizzlies tear apart campsites, watched bison gore tourists who got too close, pulled bodies out of rivers and off cliff sides. I thought I'd seen everything. Then I found the dump. It was late January, middle of winter. Most of the park was closed, roads buried under 6 feet of snow. I was doing a routine snowmobile patrol near Pelican Valley, a huge remote meadow system in the park's interior. Pelican Valley is a restricted area from April through to July every year. Fair management, grizzlies use it for denning and feeding, and the park doesn't want people getting between a stoat and her cubs. But in winter, it's supposed to be quiet, empty, except it wasn't. I was following a service road, one of those unmarked routes that rangers use to access remote patrol cabins, when I noticed something wrong. Fresh tire tracks, deep ones, like a truck had come through recently, and the gate at the access point had been cut. The chain was lying in the snow, ends clear, like someone had used bolt cutters. I followed the tracks. 2 miles in, I smelled it. If you've never smelled a Carcass dump, it's hard to describe. It's not just rot, it's rot mixed with bile and blood and something metallic, and it sticks in your throat, coats your sinuses. I've smelled it before. The park has designated sites where we dispose of roadkill and euthanize animals, but this wasn't a designated site. I came around the bend and I saw it. Clearing, maybe 50 yards across, and in the center, a pile of carcasses. Elk, bison, at least 2 wolves, some fresh, some weeks old, some reduced to bones and hide, scattered across the snow in a rough circle. But what made me stop wasn't the pile, it was the arrangement. The bones weren't scattered randomly, they were stacked, ribs leaning against femurs, skulls lined up in a row, facing outwards, like someone had spent hours organizing them, like a display. I got off the snowmobile and I walked closer, and that's when I saw the trail camera. It was zip-tied to a tree about 10 feet off the ground, pointing directly at the carcass pile. Not NPS issue, this was a personal camera, the kind hunters use. I climbed up and I pulled the SD card. Back on the ground, I loaded the card into my phone and started scrolling through the footage. Most of it was what you would expect. Grizzlies feeding at night, ravens during the day, coyotes skirting the edges. But then I saw something that made my stomach drop. Figure, human-sized, wearing what looked like a ranger jacket, the old green and grey winter uniform we used to issue. The figure walked into frame around 2 a.m, moved to the pile, and knelt down. They stayed there for an hour, barely moving. I fast-forwarded, found another clip. 3 days later, same figure, same posture. But this time, when it stood up, it turned towards the camera. The footage was grainy, low res, shot in infrared, but I could see the shape was wrong. The way it stood, shoulders too high, arms hanging too long, like the joints bent in places they shouldn't. And when it moved, it didn't walk. It swayed, side to side, natural. I pulled the SD card and pocketed it, looked around the clearing. The tire tracks led deeper into the woods, towards a section of the forest that wasn't on any map. I followed them on foot for maybe 100 yards. And that's when I heard it. Branches snapping, heavy, deliberate, something large moving through the trees. Not a bear. Bears crash through underbrush, loud and chaotic. This was measured, controlled, like footsteps. I stopped, listened. The sound stopped too. Then it started again, closer. I turned and ran back to the snowmobile. I got on, started the engine, and that's when I saw it. The figure, standing at the edge of the clearing, 50 feet away, wearing that same ranger jacket, hood up, face lost in shadow. But I could see the silhouette, the proportions, arms that hung past where the knees should be, a posture that leaned too far forward, like it was balancing on legs that didn't quite work right. It didn't move, it didn't chase me, it just stood there, watching. I hit the throttle and I didn't look back until I reached the main road. I drove straight to the ranger station, hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the handlebars. I went to my supervisor's office and told him everything, showed him the SD card. He watched the footage without saying a word. When it finished, he ejected the card, opened his desk drawer and dropped it inside. I saw at least 5 other SD cards in there, same brand, same model. The old dump site, he said quietly. We stopped using it in 2019. But there are fresh tracks, fresh. I know. He looked at me, and for the first time in 12 years, I saw fear in his eyes, real fear. That area is now administratively closed under 36 CFR 1.5. You don't go back, ever, and you don't talk about what you saw. I stared at him. What was that? He was quiet for a long time. He rubbed his face and finally said, Every few years, someone reports seeing a ranger in the backcountry, in areas where no ranger should be. Same description, same jacket, wrong proportions. We used to investigate. Then we stopped. Why? Because the people we send to investigate. He trailed off, shook his head. 2 of them never came back. Search teams found their gear, their radios, but no bodies. And the ones who did come back, they quit within a week. Walked out and refused to talk about what they've seen. He pulled a map from his desk and unfolded it, circled a section of Pelican Valley with a red marker. This area is closed year-round now. No patrols, no access. If someone stumbles in, we tell them it's sensitive bear habitat. We don't tell them the real reason. Which is? He looked at me like he was deciding how much to say. Finally, when you leave food in the same place for long enough, you teach things how to find it. We thought we were feeding bears and scavengers, but something else was watching. Something that figured out patterns, timing, and when it saw us, saw rangers coming and going, it learned how to blend in. You're saying it's mimicking us? I'm saying something out there knows what a ranger looks like, knows what we wear, and it's smart enough to use that. Whether it's trying to get close to prey, or avoid being shot, or something else, I don't know, but it's been seen for at least 15 years, maybe longer. He closed the map, looked me in the eyes. You're the 4th person to bring me footage from that site. Every time, same thing, and every time I file it away and close the area tighter, because whatever that thing is, it's not leaving, it's territorial, and as long as we stay out, it stays put. I left his office that day and I never went back to Pelican Valley, filed my report, marked the coordinates as administratively restricted. But sometimes, late at night, I think about that figure, the way it stood at the edge of the trees, perfectly still, just watching, not chasing, not threatening, just observing. And I think about the bones, stacked, arranged, an offering or a warning. And I think about the other rangers who went in and didn't come back. And I wonder if they're still out there, standing at the edge of clearings, wearing jackets that don't quite fit right, watching. Some dangers in Yellowstone are intelligent. They watch, they learn, they adapt to patterns. But not every threat thinks, not every danger can be reasoned with or avoided through caution. The next story is about a force that doesn't care if you're experienced or careful. It doesn't care if you're a ranger or a tourist. It's geologic, ancient, mindless. And when the ground decides to move, you have seconds to react, if you're lucky. I started working as a seasonal ranger at Yellowstone in April of 2024. I was 23, fresh out of college with a degree in environmental science and exactly zero experience dealing with real danger. They assigned me to the Norris Geyser Basin, the most volatile thermal area in the entire park. My first week, they sat me down for the safety briefing. Standard stuff: don't leave the boardwalk, keep tourists at a distance, watch for thermal burns. But then the senior ranger pulled up a photo on his tablet. It was a crater, maybe 6 feet across, surrounded by debris, mud, rocks, shattered wood. He said it had appeared overnight in April, just weeks before I started. A hydrothermal explosion, small one, no injuries, but park geologists had detected it on seismic monitors. These happen more than people realise, he told me, but we don't advertise it. It's bad for tourism. Then he showed me another photo. Biscuit Basin, July 23rd, 2024. A massive explosion had sent boiling water and rocks over 100 feet into the air, destroyed a section of boardwalk, and closed the entire area indefinitely. He zoomed in on the debris field. Chunks of wood the size of cars, mud splattered across trees 30 feet up. That one had 60-second warning, he said. Seismic sensors picked up the pressure spike. We evacuated just in time. But Norris, he looked at me. Norris doesn't always give warnings. I thought he was trying to scare me. I was wrong. He was trying to prepare me. It happened on a Tuesday in late June, peak season. The boardwalks were crowded. Families, retirees, solo hikers with expensive cameras. I was doing my usual patrol of Pelican Basin, the area with the most active thermal features. That's when I saw them. A couple, mid-30s, wearing matching fleece jackets, standing about 15 feet from the boardwalk, taking selfies, right next to a pool of superheated water. I started towards them, already rehearsing my speech. It's dangerous, the ground is thin, you could fall through. I got within 10 feet and stopped, because I felt it. The ground underneath my boots was vibrating, not shaking like an earthquake, pulsing, rhythmic, like it had a heartbeat. I looked down. Thin cracks were forming in the mineral crust. Steam was hissing up through them, hot enough that I could feel it through my pants. And the smell, sulphur, sharp and acidic, strong enough to make my eyes water. My radio crackled. All personnel evacuate Norris immediately. Seismic sensors show pressure spike in Porcelain Terrace. This is not a drill. The couple looked at me, confused, annoyed that I was interrupting their photo op. I didn't explain. I grabbed the woman's arm and pulled, hard. Run, now! They didn't argue. Maybe it was the look in my face, maybe it was the sound, a deep, subsonic rumble that I felt in my chest more than I heard. We ran towards the boardwalk, boots pounding on the thin crust, and I could feel it accelerating beneath me. That pulse, faster now, stronger, like the ground was breathing, and it was about to exhale. Behind us, the terrain started to bulge. I saw it happen, the surface lifting, swelling, like something underneath was pushing up, pushing out. The couple reached the boardwalk and kept running. I turned back. There was a man still out there, 50s, camera around his neck, frozen. He was staring at the ground beneath him as it cracked and hissed. He looked up at me, opened his mouth, and then the ground exploded. Not the whole basin, just a section about 40 feet across. It happened so fast I didn't have time to process it. A column of steam and boiling water erupted into the air, carrying rocks, mud, pieces of boardwalk. The sound was deafening, a roar that echoed off the hills, doubled back onto itself, and slammed into my chest like a physical force. I felt the heat on my face even from 50 yards away, felt the concussion rattle my teeth. When the steam cleared enough to see, the man was gone. Just gone. And where he'd been standing was a crater, 20 feet across, filled with churning grey-brown water. We found him 3 minutes later, 20 feet from the blast zone. Half buried in mud, his right leg had broken through the crust where he tried to run, and the scalding water underneath had caused third-degree burns from his foot to his hip. He was conscious, screaming. The sound is something I'll never forget. They airlifted him to the burn unit in Utah. He survived. They had to amputate below the knee. He'll never hike again. The park closed Norris for the rest of the season. But here's what they didn't tell the public. 3 days after the explosion, I was called into the ranger station. The senior ranger who briefed me was there, along with a USGS geologist. They had a laptop open, showing thermal imaging of Porcelain Basin. The geologist pointed to 3 spots on the screen, 3 areas glowing bright red on the infrared display. These are building pressure, he said. Same thermal signature as the April event, same seismic pattern as Biscuit Basin before it blew. I stared at the screen. When? The geologist shook his head. We don't know. Could be days, could be weeks, could be years. The system is too unstable to predict. The senior ranger spoke up. We're reopening in August, but we're rerouting the boardwalks, closing off sections. Which sections? I asked. He pointed to the map, 2 entire loops, a quarter of the basin. We're telling the public it's routine maintenance, trail repair. And the real reason? He looked at me. Those sections are still breathing, still building pressure, and we can't risk having people on them when they decide to let go. They reopened Norris in August like he said. I worked the rest of the season, watching tourists walk past barriers and closure signs, taking photos of geysers they didn't understand. Some of them complained, said they'd driven across the country and wanted access to the whole basin. I never told them the truth. That the ground beneath them closed sections was pulsing. That seismic monitors were picking up pressure spikes every few hours. That USGS had quietly installed additional sensors and was monitoring the area around the clock. And I never told them what the geologist said to me, quietly, as I was leaving the station that day. Norris has had at least a dozen documented hydrothermal explosions in the last 150 years. Small ones, like the one you saw, but the record suggests there had been larger events, much larger. Car-sized boulders thrown a quarter mile, craters 50 feet deep. He closed his laptop. We're not worried about the small ones anymore. We're worried about what happens if one of those 3 zones goes critical at the same time, if the pressure releases all at once. I asked him what that would look like. He didn't answer for a long time. Then he said, "We'll evacuate the entire basin, and we'll probably lose some of it, permanently." I quit at the end of the season. I didn't come back the next year. But I still follow the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory reports, and every time I see an update about seismic activity at Norris, I think about that sound, that subsonic rumble, the way the ground pulsed beneath my feet like something was alive, and I wonder how much longer it will be until it exhales again. Hydrothermal explosions can kill in seconds. Boiling water, flying debris, ground that opens beneath your feet. But there's something worse than dying fast. There's dying slow, in front of someone who wants to help you, but can't. The last story is the hardest one to tell. It's about a decision every ranger hopes they never have to make, and it's about the protocol we don't talk about, the one that doesn't appear in any manual, the one that says, sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is nothing. I've been a ranger at Yellowstone for 15 years. In that time, I've seen 22 people die. Rockfalls, drownings, bear attacks, heart attacks on steep trails, and thermal burns. The thermal burns are the worst. Because with thermal burns, there's almost nothing you can do. And sometimes, not often, but sometimes, you have to make a choice that will haunt you for the rest of your life. It was late September, just before the park started closing roads for winter. I got a call over the radio. Hiker in distress. Heart Lake Trail, approximately 8 miles in. No details, just in distress and GPS coordinates. Heart Lake is remote. The trail is 14 miles round trip, mostly through dense forest, and it sees maybe a dozen hikers a week outside of peak season. I grabbed my medical kit, radioed dispatch that I was en route, and I started hiking. It took me an hour and 40 minutes to reach the coordinates. When I got there, I heard him before I saw him, screaming, not yelling for help, screaming, the kind of sound that's pure pain, no words, just raw agony echoing through the trees. I came around the bend and saw him. He was in the water. Not a river, not a lake, a thermal pool. Maybe 15 feet across, surface smooth and pale blue, steam rising off it in lazy curls. Beautiful, if you didn't know what it was. The hiker was waist deep, mid-50s, balding, wearing a fleece jacket and hiking pants, but the pants weren't pants anymore. They were melting into his skin, fabric and flesh fusing together in the superheated water. His legs were submerged, and I could see, even from 20 feet away, that his skin was peeling, coming off in sheets. The water around him was cloudy with blood and tissue. He saw me, reached out. "Help me, please, God, help me." I dropped my pack and I ran to the edge of the pool, got within 5 feet and stopped, because the ground around the pool was unstable, thin crust, barely an inch thick, covering superheated mud. I could see cracks forming from where I was standing, steam hissing up. If I stepped closer, I'd break through, and if I broke through, we'd both die. I got on the radio, tried to keep my voice steady. "Dispatch, this is Ranger 7-4. I have code red thermal injury, Heart Lake backcountry, adult male, waist deep in acidic spring. Severe burns to lower extremities and torso, requesting immediate medevac." Static. Then, "Acknowledged, patching in medical." The park medical officer came on the line. Her voice was calm, clinical. I described the injuries in detail, the peeling skin, the exposed muscle, the way the water was clouding with dissolved tissue. I didn't sugarcoat it. "Can you safely extract him?" she asked. I looked at the ground. had a crack spreading beneath my boot, by the hiker who was staring at me with eyes that started to glaze over from shock. "No," I said. "The terrain is too unstable. If I go in, we both go in." Silence on the line, long enough that I thought I lost connection. Then, "Understood. Stay with him. Keep him calm. We're sending a helicopter, but it's 40 minutes out. Do you have pain medication?" I had morphine in my kit, enough to dull the pain, but not enough to stop it. Not for the injuries this severe. "Affirmative. Administer it and..." She paused. I heard her talking to someone in the background, voice muffled. Then she came back on. "Make him as comfortable as you can." I understood what she wasn't saying. He's not going to make it. I knelt as close to the edge as I dared. The hiker was shaking now, teeth chattering, eyes unfocused. Shock was settling in, and the water was still dissolving him. I could see bones in the gaps in his skin. "What's your name?" I asked. "David." His voice was weak, slurred. "David Chen." "Okay, David, I'm going to give you something for the pain. It's going to help. Just stay with me, okay?" He nodded, barely. I unwrapped the morphine, leaned out as far as I could without breaking through the crust, and I injected it into his shoulder. He didn't even flinch. "Why isn't there a sign?" he asked. His voice was fading, words running together. "Why isn't this marked?" I didn't have an answer. The truth was, there are hundreds of unmarked thermal features in Yellowstone, maybe thousands. Some appear overnight when underground pressure shifts. Some are so remote we don't even know they exist until someone stumbles into one. And some, like this one, are too unstable to safely fence or mark without sending people in to do it. "I'm sorry," I said. He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the moment he understood. "I'm not getting out, am I?" I wanted to lie, to tell him the helicopter was almost there, that we'll pull him out, that he'll be okay. But I've never lied to someone who's dying. I wasn't going to start now. "No," I said quietly. "You're not." He closed his eyes. A tear ran down his cheek, cut a line through the mud and ash on his face. "Okay." "Is there anyone you want me to call?" I asked. "Family? Friends?" "My wife, Ellen." His voice was barely a whisper now. Tell her I love her. And I'm sorry I went off trail. She told me not to. She always tells me not to." "I'll tell her." He nodded, tried to tell me something else, but the words didn't come. His breathing was slowing, getting shallow. The morphine was taking effect, but so was the shock. His body was shutting down. We sat there for 6 minutes. I talked to him the whole time, asked about his wife, his kids, his favourite hikes. He answered at first, voice getting quieter, words slurring. Then he stopped answering. His head drooped forward, and then he slipped under. The pool swallowed him without a sound. One moment he was there, chest deep, eyes half open. The next moment he was gone. The water closed over him like he never existed. I sat there for another hour, staring at the pool, waiting for the helicopter. When it finally arrived, I waved them off. There was nothing to recover. Nothing they could. The next day, I came back with a recovery team. We approached the pool wearing full hazmat gear, carrying poles to test the ground stability. When we got to the edge, we looked in. The water was clear, pale blue, perfectly still. There was no body, no clothing, no backpack, nothing. The team leader, a ranger who'd been at Yellowstone for 30 years, he looked at me and said, "This is the 9th one I've seen. Every time, same result. Give it 24 hours and there's nothing left. The acidity is around pH 2, temperature's over 200 degrees. It dissolves organic matter completely. I filed my report. Cause of death, thermal injury, acidic immersion, body unrecoverable. It went into the park database along with 21 others. I called David's wife that night, told her what happened, told her he didn't suffer long, told her that he loved her. She asked if she could have his body, if there could be a funeral. I had to tell her no, that there wasn't a body, that the park couldn't recover anything. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, How many what? How many other people have died like this, in these pools that aren't marked? I didn't answer right away. Finally, 22 that I know of, since I started. She hung up. I think about David Chen every time I patrol Hark Lake. The pool is still there, still unmarked, still waiting, because there are places in Yellowstone we can't mark safe, places that are too remote, too unstable, too unpredictable. And every year, someone wanders off trail looking for a view, or a photo, or a quiet place to be alone. And some of them find the pools we don't mark, and some of them don't come back. And I wonder how long it be before I get another call, before I have to make another choice, before I have to look into someone's eyes and tell them the truth, that I can't save them, that nobody can, and that the kindest thing I can do is stay and watch and make sure that they don't die alone.